about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for a basement. Yeah, I lost my way, but I hear tell about a heaven in Alberta, where they've got all hell for a basement.
Hi, everyone. Excuse me. Ooh, a little something in my throat there. Hi, everyone. Frankie here. New West Reset. Welcome. Thank you very much for shooting in and joining a fella here for another one, another live stream. New West Reset Live, episode 37. And where are we at here? Friday, October the 27th. Just a shade past 7 p.m. local time here, Mountain Time. Coming at you as always from beautiful Calgary, Alberta, up here in Canada there, Bod? And yeah, I mean, it's not quite Halloween, but yeah, I mean, you know, it's I'm doing the Halloween special here tonight for this episode. So welcome. Thanks for kicking off your weekend with yours truly, old Frankie. Happy Friday to you. Happy Friday. And yeah, it's chilly outside, as you might have, assumed. Canada, the end of October, Not so bad today. I think it went to a high of -5 Celsius, which is, I don't even know what that is Fahrenheit. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad. Because the day before it was -15 Celsius, and we've got about 4 inches of snow on the ground out there, people. So, yeah, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed at all with the snow and the cold. But today, it was, today at least we had blue skies. The sun was out, and like I said, the temperature rose quite a bit. It still stayed below zero, so I mean, it is what it is. But some of the snow melted, So, I just feel bad for the kids that want to go out trick-or-treating in a few nights. I remember when I was a kid, right? When it was too cold, it kind of sucked. So, yeah. Anyway, so the Halloween special here tonight, New West Reset Live, episode 37. We're going to be looking at this weirdo from the Victorian era over here in Canada by way of Scotland. And he kind of bebopped and danced around between Canada, the US, England. He was born in Scotland. But anyways, he's kind of known as Canada's Jack the Ripper. Ooh, scary. Anyway, his name was Dr. Neill Cream. Dr. Thomas Neill Cream. And yeah, he was a Canadian, Scottish-born Canadian? Scottish-Canadian? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Whatever. Scottish-born Canadian Victorian Era serial killer. So we're going to take a look at him tonight. And I'm also going to, I found some lovely old photos of some of the mental asylums and mental institutions here in Canada. Some of the big ones, right? Some of the big old world ones. And I specifically grabbed images for Canada only. So we'll be looking at that as well. And as per usual, I'll give you a sneak peek at your midweek coming up for next week. Normally, a guy will put it up for you on a Wednesday, your midweek. But this week, or this coming week, I'm going to do it Tuesday because that's Halloween, and it's a Halloween-related video. So, yeah. So I'm going to do that as well. But before that, got 12 of you watching. So welcome. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Broadcasting live simultaneously over on the Rumble. So, yeah, links in the description below down there for everything we're going to look at tonight, as well as, a fella over here, how you can get a hold of me, email, MeWe, BitChute, Rumble. So, yeah, down in the description box below. So, yeah, how's everybody doing? How's the weather where you are? Let me know. Got 14 watching now. So sound off in the box, say hello, and let me know where you're, let a fellow know where you're shooting in from. I don't know. I've got quite a few friends that live in the States, and they say that the weather's been cooling off quite a bit there as well. But I know a lot of people in the States. I converse with a lot of you folks, my subscribers, or whatever, you fellow crazy fools that come around here and join me. Anyway, but I have, some close personal friends that live in the U.S., but it's different because they kind of live in some of the northern states, like, Illinois, like a lot of the Great Lakes states too, right? Like Illinois and North Dakota and that kind of stuff, Minnesota. So they're getting crappy cold stuff too. Michigan too. I got a friend that lives just outside of Detroit, Michigan, in Midland, Michigan. And the leaves have already changed color and fallen down. And I think he got a skiff of snow a couple of days ago as well. So, what you gonna do? So yeah, thanks for shooting in, joining me here for this Halloween edition, Halloween special. Let's see who we got here. Who's Bill's here. Hello, welcome, William Pals. Welcome. Terry Light is here as well. Good to see you, Terry. Our old friend, Old World, Michigan. Kathy's here from Kentucky. I doubt you've got snow down there. Frankie Fingerbones. Yes, there you go. Phil Henry's here as well. Welcome. Our buddy Old World, Mi'kmaq. Welcome. Howdy. Hey, there's Vincent. Yeah, the glove. Well, it's, Frankie Fingers, right? Frankie Fingers. I gotta do something for the Halloween thing. With the whole Frankie Fingers thing. Because I'm not gonna let that die. I am not gonna let that whole Frankie Fingers thing die.
So now you know what I'm talking about with the whole New West Reset thing.
No.
What?
No.
What I said about Frankie Fingers.
Oh.
That Frankie Fingers
yeah.
and New West Reset are the same.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, she don't stand no cheating. She don't stand none of that.
Kathy says, make insane asylums great again. Howdy, Henry. Henry Maldonado. Good to see you. Team Heat in the house. Good to see Team Heat in the box. Oh, hey, guy. How's she going there, bud? Hey? Vince wants to know, do Canadian serial killers say sorry first? Sorry. Sorry that I'm about to stab you. Anyway. 66 degrees and raining in Kentucky. Yeah, there you go. Speaking of friends that live, all over the place, I've got a buddy that lives in Santiago, Chile. And last summer, his brother moved from Santiago, Chile to Surrey, British Columbia, which is just outside of Vancouver. And I said, well, your bro's in for a heck of a surprise when it comes to the weather. But Vancouver rarely gets a lot of snow. And if they do get it, it's that wet kind of half rain, half snow, and it doesn't really accumulate. And if it does, it doesn't last long, It's kind of windy and just kind of coldish, like hovering around zero, and damp, and kind of that sleet, drizzly kind of crap. So, but the summers are decent. So he'll enjoy the summers, but he's not going to enjoy the winters. But it's better than the winters here. That's for dang sure. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Apparently my pronunciation of Mi'kmaq is 100%. I was convinced I was butchering it. But, well, I know there's two acceptable ways to pronounce the nation. But, us crackers, right? Us honkies, sometimes we're not so good. The problem is not a lot of people can make that soft ha sound at the end, right? Mi'kmaq. But yeah. Phil says he's driving all night. You just drive safely there now. Idaho, eh? Yeah, you could be having some snow and that there in Idaho for sure. For sure there, eh? 7 degrees Celsius in Maple Ridge, British Columbia. Yeah, see, above zero. That's chilly, though. I mean, it's getting chilly at night. Yeah, we were talking about that last week, weren't we, Vince? If you manage to gather up the snow as it's accumulating, if it does accumulate, and you form it into a snowball, yeah, they really hurt because it's a slush ball, really. It's basically loosely held together small chunks of ice, for lack of a better term. Yeah, so that's fun to get that in the side of the head. Tartarian Prague Rocker in the box. Howdy, welcome. 33 Fahrenheit. That's not the best. That is not the best. It's definitely not warm and toasty. That's for sure. I mean, the sun is long set here at 7:15 p.m. Mountain Time here in Calgary. That's up in Canada there, eh? If you didn't know there, buddy. I mean, it's pretty much knocking, wrapping upon the chamber door of -10 Celsius already. Which I think's, I don't know, 25-ish Fahrenheit or something. I don't know. Not the best. Yeah, ice rock ball. Terry says, I'm getting my last tomatoes in tomorrow. Good crop this year. Wow, you're going to have to remind a fella where you're living, where you're still able to get one more crop of potatoes in. Or tomatoes, sorry. I haven't had to have tomatoes for like a month here. Pulling them in at night for the past month. Sheesh. Mega Triumph says in Minnesota. Lived there, 0 degrees was good. Yeah. 0 in the winter or 0 this time of year right now. I mean, that's decent. You can't ask for better than that. Old World Michigan says 70 degrees there. Yeah, that's roughly 20-ish Celsius. That's like a nice spring afternoon or a fall afternoon here, early fall, you know. You're half surprised that I don't have a real. Where would a fella get his hands on a real skull? This one, obviously, plastic from the dollar store, because, you know, what do you know, who do you think I am? Who do you think old Frankie is out here that I can get my hands on a real skull? But to quote the Big Lebowski, I can get you a pinky toe. If you want a pinky toe, I can get you a pinky toe. I can get you a pinky toe by 4:30 with nail polish. Skull. No, I'm not a member of any secret societies or, you know, fraternal orders. So no real skulls in my abode. Oh, between Midland and Detroit, really? And you're still able to keep the tomatoes going? Because at the top of the stream, I was saying I've got a buddy that lives in Midland, and I know that he's had not the best. I think he said he had snow the other day. So yeah, 74 in Boston. That's a nice day. It's a nice day. Oh yeah, the Smithsonian has huge skulls. We're not allowed to see them. We're not allowed to see any of the giant remains, the skeletal remains of various giants. I think they have one, maybe two set up in there. But, you know, they were dumping them, getting rid of them and stuff. So, you know. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because of the old stuff I collect. Yeah, the old cameras, old records. Yeah, those old binoculars and all that stuff that I usually have here in the background, old books and stuff. Yeah, I like old stuff. You know, what's guy gonna do? I like the old stuff. So yeah, as mentioned, broadcasting simultaneously live over on the BitChute, or sorry, on the Rumble, and links for Rumble, BitChute, MeWe, so on and so forth in the description below. So yeah, let's kick this thing off here with the Halloween special and this Dr. Thomas Neill Cream. I think first let's see who we're talking about here. Let's just pull up the Wikipedia and at least see what they say about the good doctor. And in the meantime, thank you very much again for kicking off your weekend with me. Thanks for shooting in and joining a fella here. Always good to see all of you, and I certainly appreciate you, taking a little bit of your Friday night or maybe your Saturday, earlier Saturday morning, and spending it with little old me. It's nice. So here we go. Thomas Neill Cream. Oh geez, I always do that. This guy was a piece of work, let me tell you what. Thomas Neill Cream, born May 27th, 1850. Died November 15th, 1892, also known as the Lambeth Poisoner. That's a nice moniker if I've ever heard one. Was a Scottish-Canadian medical doctor and serial killer. Well, I'm glad they put the doctor before the serial killer, at least, who poisoned his victims with strychnine. That's nice. He murdered up to 10 people in 3 countries, targeting mostly lower-class women. Ladies of the night, if you will, and pregnant women seeking abortions. Shame on you, Dr. Cream. He was convicted and sentenced to death and was hanged on the 15th November, 1892. Rumors suggested that his last words were a false confession, that he was Jack the Ripper, but official records show that he was in prison in Illinois at the time of the Ripper murders. So he was born in Glasgow. Cream was raised outside of Quebec City after his family moved there in 1854. He attended the now defunct Le Chute Academy before becoming a student at McGill University in Montreal, graduating with a medical doctorate degree in 1876. His thesis was on chloroform. Should have been on strychnine, maybe, no? Just for consistency and whatnot. His postgraduate training was at St. Thomas's Hospital Medical School in London. And in 1878, he obtained additional qualifications as a physician and surgeon in Edinburgh. He then returned to North America, seeking to practice in a community in need of physicians. After a brief experience in Des Moines, Iowa, he relocated to London, Ontario. So yeah, this first hospital is in London, England, in the UK, obviously. So there's always that confusion. London, Ontario, Canada, London, England, in the UK. And he spent time in both. It gets a little, you got to watch that. In 1876, while living in Waterloo, Quebec, Cream met Flora Brooks, and they began courting. Brooks became pregnant a few months later after Cream had promised to marry her. He attempted to perform an abortion, but failed. Oh, that's nice. Leaving her severely ill. Good job, Doc. He tried to escape to Montreal, but was caught by Flora's father. Good for you, Pops, who forced him to return and to marry her. The day after the wedding, he left for England to continue his medical education. The Brooks family never saw or heard from him again. Flora Brooks almost fully recovered, but died of consumption or tuberculosis in 1877. Well, at least she dodged his bullet. Pretty sure TB is consumption. So this guy sounds like a real nice piece of work, huh? And he says he pictures my place like Sherlock Holmes's place. Not my place, because I share my my suite here with my brother, right? We have a 2-bedroom suite here in the complex, so in the building. So I got a roomie, but my own personal bedroom. Yeah, I got a lot of old junk around here. Maybe not as many books as old Sherlock, but yeah, I don't have the opium or the violin. Oh, Terry, jeez. That's funny. It's funny. Hey, hippie. Howdy, hippie. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. We're having a good time over here. Anyways, let's get to these murders, shall we? Awkward segue. Just gonna have a sip of my coffee here. Excuse me. Isn't that the worst thing ever? Somebody slurps their hot beverage. There we go. So yeah, he kicks things off in London, Ontario, not to be confused with Londinium in England. So Cream returned to North America in 1878 and established a medical practice in London, Ontario. He was charged under Ontario's Medical Act with practicing without a license. Oh, that's nice, and later pleaded guilty. However, this did not deter patients from visiting his office. Well, buyer beware. I guess it's your own fault, dummies. In 1879, Catherine Hutchinson Gardner was found dead in a privy behind Cream's office at 204 Dundas Street in Toronto. So Catherine Hutchinson Gardner, probably his first victim. She was pregnant. Oh, there's his MO right there. Nice job. A-hole. And had been murdered with a handkerchief soaked in chloroform. Well, there you go. That's what he wrote his thesis on. Nice. Cream had refused to help her with an abortion, instead urging her to accuse a local businessman of being the father. Cream claimed she had threatened to poison herself when he had not agreed to perform the abortion, and that she had written him a letter in which she named the businessman as the father. However, Gardner's family and roommate denied that she had written it, as the signature and handwriting on the letter did not match her own, and it was dismissed as forgery. Despite rumors and overwhelming evidence against Cream, authorities took no further action and the case was never solved. Great. Bunch of bumbling idiots. Sesame Street drinking noises, eh? Aha. So then apparently he heads down to Illinois. He heads down to Chi-Town, Illinois. Cream established a medical practice not far from the red light district in Chicago. Great. Offering illegal abortions to ladies of the evening. He was investigated again. It should say again. He was investigated again in August 1880 after the death of Marianne Faulkner, a woman on whom he had allegedly operated. He escaped prosecution due to lack of evidence. In December 1880, another patient, Miss Stack, died after treatment by Cream, and he subsequently attempted to blackmail the pharmacist who had filled the prescription. So he tried to pin it on a legit medical professional. Nice guy. In April 1881, a woman named Alice Montgomery died of strychnine poisoning. There you go, his preferred MO. Following an abortion in a rooming house, barely a block from Cream's office. The case was ruled a murder, but never solved. Location, time period, and method make Cream a likely suspect. Okay, so circumstantial evidence, I guess, to loosely link him to that one. On the 14th of July, 1881, Daniel Stott died of strychnine, there it is again, poisoning at his home in Boone County, Illinois, after Cream supplied him with an alleged remedy for epilepsy. The death was attributed to natural causes, but Cream wrote to the coroner blaming the pharmacist for the death after he again attempted blackmail. This time, Cream was arrested along with Mrs. Julia A. Abbey Stott, who had allegedly become Cream's mistress. Nice. And procured poison from Cream to do away with her husband. Huh. Isn't that lovely? These two are quite a pair. So, of course, she turned state's evidence to avoid jail, laying the blame on Cream, which left him to face a murder conviction on his own. He was sentenced to life imprisonment in Joliet Prison. Daniel Stott's friends erected a tombstone at his grave, which reads, Daniel Stott died June 12th, 1881, aged 61 years, poisoned by his wife and Dr. Cream. Ouch. Well, yeah, there you go. Bill saying, geez, that's getting close to where I'm at. Yeah, this guy got around. Cream was released in 1891. Governor Joseph W. Pfeiffer had commuted his sentence after Cream's brother pleaded for leniency and allegedly bribed the authorities. Oh, that's great. Fantastic. So around 1881, supposed to life in prison, and 10 years later he gets out due to bribes, stuff like that. Nice. All right, moving on. London now. Using money inherited from his father, who had died in 1887, Cream sailed for England, arriving in Liverpool the 1st of October 1891, 3 years after the Jack the Ripper killings had been committed. So there goes the whole he's a possible suspect theory. Anyway, moving on. He went to London and took lodgings at 103 Lambeth Palace Road. Lambeth Palace Road, okay. At the time, Lambeth was riddled with poverty, petty crime, and prostitution. Oh, just where he loves to set up shop. On the 13th of October, 1891, Ellen Nellie Donworth, a 19-year-old lady of the evening, received 2 letters from Cream and agreed to meet him. He offered her a drink from a bottle. She became severely ill that night and died from what was later found to be strychnine poisoning. There it is again. During her inquest, Cream wrote to the coroner under the pseudonym A. O'Brien, detective, offering to name the murderer in return for a £300,000 reward. He also wrote to W.F.D. Smith, owner of the W.H. Smith bookstalls, accusing him of the murder and demanding money for his silence. So he's trying to pin all this stuff on all kinds of other people. First, he was trying to pin it on pharmacists. Now he's just, I don't know, seemingly random people now. This W.H. Smith bookstalls. Okay, that's a... Okay. Book vendor, I guess. On the 20th of October, Cream met with a 27-year-old lady of the evening named Matilda Clover. That's quite the handle. Matilda Clover. Almost sounds made up. He offered her pills, Bill Cosby style. Anyway, instructing her to take 4 before bed. She began experiencing violent, painful spasms later that night and died 2 hours later. Her death was assumed to be heart failure due to alcohol withdrawal. Cream, under the name M. Malone, wrote a letter to the prominent physician William Broadbent, claiming to have evidence of his involvement in Clover's death and demanding £25,000 for his silence. Broadbent contacted Scotland Yard and they set up a trap for the blackmailer when he would come to collect the money. However, no one was caught. And he just likes to try to blatantly frame other people. Hey, Eric, old world hamster wheel cranes in the box. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. On April 2nd, 1892, after a vacation in Canada, it's after all the killing, a guy needs to take some time off to relax, I guess. Cream returned to London, where he met Louise Harvey, nee Harris, a lady of the evening. He likes to prey on the vulnerable ones that end up strolling around alone at night in sketchy neighborhoods, apparently. He offered her 2 pills, insisting she swallow them right away. Harvey, suspicious of him, pretended to swallow the pills he had given her, but secretly threw them from a bridge into the River Thames. Great. So poisoning some fish, I guess. Fish got strychnine poisoning. On the 11th of April, Cream met 2 ladies of the evening, Alice Marsh, 21, and Emma Shrivel, 18. This guy fancies himself a Casanova. And spent the night with them in their flat. Then, before leaving, offered them 3 pills each and a can of tinned salmon. Oh, this guy knows how to woo the women. Both women died later that night from strychnine poisoning. Bam, there he is with the strychnine. He loves that strychnine stuff, man. So now we get to this guy's captured, finally, this monster. Through his blackmail letters, see, that's where you got greedy and stupid right there, right? Through these letters, Cream succeeded in drawing close attention to himself. Not only did the police quickly determine the innocence of those accused, but they noticed something telling in the accusations made by the anonymous letter writer. He had referred to the murderer of Matilda Clover. Clover's death had been registered under natural causes related to her drinking. Aha, technicality. He referred to it as a murder, but it was a natural cause death. Oh boy. The police quickly realized that the false accuser who had written the letter was the serial killer now referred to in the newspapers as the Lambeth poisoner. Not long afterward, Cream met a policeman from New York City who was visiting London. The policeman had heard of the Lambeth poisoner, and Cream gave him a brief tour of where the various victims had lived. The American happened to mention it to a British policeman, who found Cream's detailed knowledge of the case suspicious. The police at Scotland Yard put Cream under surveillance and soon discovered his habit of visiting ladies of the evening. They also conducted an investigation in the United States and Canada and learned about their suspect's history, including the conviction for a murder by poison in 1891. Yeah, that was supposed to be a life sentence. But he got out in 10 years. See, if they hadn't let him out, 8 or 9 other men and women, I think he killed a couple of dudes, but he tended to favor preying on the ladies. Who knows? Maybe none of them would have been deleted on. You know what I'm saying? On the 3rd of June, 1892, Cream was arrested for the murder of Matilda Clover. And on the 13th of July, he was formally charged with the murders of Clover, Donworth, Marsh, and Shrivel, the attempted murder of Harvey, and extortion. His medicine/poisoning kit, taken in as evidence, is now in the Crime Museum. From the start, he insisted he was only Dr. Thomas Neill, not Thomas Neill Cream, and the newspapers usually referred to him as Dr. Neill in their coverage of the proceedings. So he even just tried to say you got the wrong Dr. Neill. Right. At the inquest into Matilda Clover's death that was held by Athelstan Braxton Hicks. Well, that's quite the handle there, buddy. In July 1892, he read out a letter signed by Jack the Ripper declaring Dr. Neill innocent, which produced laughter, including from Neill. The jury returned a verdict that Matilda Clover died from strychnine poisoning administered by Dr. Neill. His trial lasted from the 17th to the 21st of October, 1892. After deliberation lasting only 12 minutes, jury found him guilty on all counts, and Justice Henry Hawkins sentenced him to death. Less than a month after his conviction, 15th November, Cream was hanged at Newgate Prison by James Billington. As was customary with all executed criminals, his body was buried the same day beneath the flagstones of the prison. They say, he's buried them under the prison, along with other executed criminals, marked by one initial. His body was disinterred in 1902 and moved to London's Municipal Cemetery. He's now buried in an unmarked grave in section 339. And here's where the Jack the Ripper suspects thing kind of comes into play here, is I am Jack the. So Billington claimed that Cream's last words on the scaffold were, I am Jack the ... Billington promoted this alleged incident as proof that he was responsible for executing the notorious Victorian serial killer Jack the Ripper. That's basically why he's known as Canada's Jack the Ripper. These claims are unsubstantiated, as police officials and others who attended the execution made no mention of any such event. Moreover, Cream was in prison at the time of the Ripper murders in 1888, so it would have been impossible for him to be the Jack the Ripper. Ripperologist Donald Bell speculated that Cream had bribed officials and had been let out of prison before his official release. And Sir Edward Marshall Hall speculated that Cream's prison term had been served by a look-alike in his place. Oh, for crying out loud. Such notions are extremely unlikely, no kidding, and contradict all known evidence given by the Illinois authorities, newspapers of the time, Cream's solicitors / lawyers, Cream's family, and Cream himself. Yeah, I mean, come on, man. He had a look-alike service time, or he was bribed to be let out before his official release. Well, he was already bribed to be let out 10 years early, or after just serving 10 years of a life sentence. So what was he? Doubly bribed? A double dog bribe you to let him out doubly early. I don't know. It's ridiculous. One of Cream's biographers suggested that Cream, on the scaffold and about to be hanged, was so frightened that he lost control of his bodily functions and stammered, I am ejaculating. Oh, give me a break. Which could have been mistaken for I am Jack. What the... Really? Wow. I love how this one of Cream's biographers, he chose to remain nameless because it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. English-Canadian writer Chris Scott won an Arthur Ellis Award for Best Crime Novel in 1989 for Jack, a novel based on the premise that Cream was Jack the Ripper. See, but he wasn't. The motivation for the series of poisonings has never been settled. It has generally been assumed that Cream was a sadist who enjoyed the thought of his victims' agonized deaths and his control over them, even if he was not physically present to witness these. However, Cream was also interested in money, as evidenced by his attempts at extortion in almost all of his crimes. So it remains a possibility that he committed the murders as part of an ill-planned attempts to profit from them. From the start of the series of crimes, Cream wrote blackmail notes to prominent people, and the poisoning of his one known male victim, Daniel Stott, was committed with the hope that Stott's wealthy widow would share the deceased's estate with him. Aha, so he only did murder one dude. And it was to get at the dude's lady. In addition to the 5 poisonings Cream was convicted of, In addition to the 5 poisonings Cream was convicted of, he is suspected of the murders of his wife, Flora Brooks, in 1877, and of at least 4 other women who died in his care while undergoing abortions. Yeah, no kidding. You think? Cream was the main antagonist of the 1990 BBC4 radio play Sherlock Holmes, The Adventures of Pimlico Poisoner. In the first episode in 2000 of Murder Rooms, The Mysteries of the Real Sherlock Holmes, the young Arthur Conan Doyle and Joseph Bell pursue a murder case that involves a Thomas Neill, played by Alec Newman. At the end, a postscript further identifies him as Thomas Neill Cream, who attended medical school alongside Conan Doyle. Get out of here, really? In the 2015 BBC One televised series River, Cream appears frequently to and converses with D.I. John River as a manifest. So there you go. What a wonderful chap. Yeah, right? Pretty sick. Yeah, thank you. That's right. Show Frankie some love now in this spooky Halloween edition of New West Reset Live. Give a guy a thumbs up, one of these, And hey, and if you're new here, you're wondering what's going on and you want to see more of this wackiness, you like the old world stuff, you like boots on the ground of mud-flooded buildings, and you like live streams about all kinds of wacky old world stuff, maybe consider subscribing to a guy. Sure, why not? It just kind of helps push me out into the algorithm. And if you're already subscribed, thank you very much. Make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube's is doing that crappy stuff they do again. Hello, Neutral Mass in the box. Welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, Frankie Fingers is Frankie Finger Bones tonight. That's right. Well, got to keep the Frankie Fingers thing going, right? It's a thing now. So what you're saying is Frankie Fingers is New West Reset?
Frankie Fingers is New West Reset. I don't understand. Okay, I've been trying to tell you. Frankie Fingers is New West Reset. New West Reset is Frankie Fingers.
So it's the same guy.
Yes, it's the same guy, Mutt. What do you think? I've been trying to tell you. Frankie Fingers, New West Reset. Frankie Fingers, New West Reset. Okay?
All right, I got it. Jeez. We like to have a good time around here. We like to have fun, even when we are doing a deep dive into some creepy, twisted individuals that for once I'm not proud to say is Canadian. That guy, or at least lived in Canada for quite a while. Practiced medicine in Canada. Yeah, no. Dr. Neill Cream. Nah, no, thank you. We'll let Scotland claim that guy. Anyway, let's have a look. By the way, we've been yammering about this fella. Let's see if I can hook your ocular sphericals onto this guy and see what we're looking at here. This guy's a piece of work. Found some photographs, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more, online. And I wanted to start actually with some of the publications that were going around during his trial, and even prior to that, when some of these poisonings were occurring, in the periodicals and the rag magazines and the tabloid-styled newspapers back in the day. They would always have these drawings, you see, with big eye-catching headlines. The equivalent today of a clickbait thumbnail, right? On the YouTubes. Yes, yeah, well, I'll put it, yeah. We'll put it that way. Absconded to Canada briefly. Bony fingers. Nice touch. Yes. Well, thanks. You got to do the Halloween thing, right? You got to have some eyeballs in a jar, a creepy candle in a pumpkin-shaped candle thing. Get your skull. Get some Edgar Allan Poe here for when I, read myself to sleep tonight. Because that's pleasant before you go to bed, is reading some Edgar Allan Poe. Anyway, let's have a look at some of the stuff here. The just end of a monster of inequity. Yeah, this was the condemned man, Neill, mentally reviews his awful past. The woman poisoner seeking his victims. See, very sensationalized, right? He left her to die in frightful agony in the street. He mixed her some lemonade, but she didn't drink it. The dying girl, Clover, calls for her child. Oh, yeesh. So, yeah, see, very morbid and sensationalized. The mysterious poisoner of girls. Who is he? We won't go home till morning. Yeah, the road to degradation and death. Death mixes a drink. Yikes. Does that say strychnine? Yeah, it does. Whoops. Yeah, it's a strychnine right there too. Yeah, yikes. Spooky. Oh, spooky. Hey, Drew. Drew Duncan in the box. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, what is this TV you speak of? So this is his graduating class of medical school. Well, this is the bunch. I was trying to find him. I did find him, and I should have put a red circle around him, but I now can't remember. I think it's this fella right here. But I don't know. Kind of an odd-looking block. Look at this guy. You couldn't hold still for 5 seconds, buddy? You got a case of the shakes up there? So there he is. There he is. Dr. Neill Cream. The poisoner. Canada's Jack the Ripper. Serial killer. And it's funny, we don't really hear much in terms of serial killers that often prior really to sort of the Victorian era, like, right around starting in and around the 1850s, 1860s, those sort of earmarked dates that seem to come up over and over again in our line of research and our interests, right? And kind of looking into some of this stuff. Old world resets. Now, I know the term serial killer wasn't really coined until the 60s or 70s, I think. 1960s, that is. Not the 1860s or 1870s, that's for sure. They were just called mass killers or deranged ghouls or whatever, right? Ghouls is a very common one. But either way, whatever the terminology used, you didn't often hear. Here he is carrying a University Gazette, and he's got his pipe. He's even posing with a dog there. But see, of course, he's got to get the top hat. And it's just, I don't know, something's not right with this guy, The eyes have it, if you will. But yeah, whatever the term is, serial killer or mass murderer or multi-murderer or whatever the case may be, it seems like we weren't really hearing a lot about them, let's say in like the 1600s or 1700s, right? There weren't books or stories written. I'm sure there were some, but it's almost like it became national and then later an international sort of sick fascination. And we've talked about this with the people in the Victorian era before, with their sort of macabre interests that they had in like doing seances and doing weird photo manipulations where, a guy's got his own head sitting on in his lap, when he goes to a portrait studio. Ugh, look at this. Look at the mug on this. This guy was a doctor. Could you imagine? Oh, I don't feel well. I'm going to go and visit this guy. This guy's going to make me feel better. Yeah, the top hat, right? Yes, indeed. So I don't know. It just seems that there's something in and around 1800, 1820 maybe, and then it really kind of kicks in the 1850s, 1860s. Where it goes from, maybe a crime of passion of a husband killing a wife or a husband killing a jilted lover or a wife killing a husband or just murder in the streets in poverty-stricken areas. Whoops, got ahead of myself. To all of a sudden, you've got these lunatics running around killing like 5, 8, 10, 12 people. And it only gets worse from there, right? Yeah, keep animals away. Yeah, keep anyone away from that guy. You know what I'm saying? Yes, see, the eyes have it. He does have a little bit of a crossed eye, one eye that's kind of wandering in a bit there, doesn't it? Yeah, see? You can always tell by the ocular sphericals what's going on behind them, it seems. Say, Doc, what's wrong with your eyes over there? So it seems to me like there was something that went on, something that happened that I don't know. It's like a lot of people's brains got broke, right? It broke their brains. It snapped, something in their head snapped like a dry piece of driftwood or something. And then all of a sudden we just see this sudden uptick in what today we call serial killers, again, not just like some crazy man just, I don't know, killing his wife and 3 kids and they catch him and he goes to jail. Talking about, loose association with this guy or woman in some cases, in a lot of cases, go around killing people. It's just somebody they vaguely meet in their daily goings on, somebody they observe somewhere and they become obsessed with. And that there's different behaviors associated with these multiple murderers, what have become known as serial killers, than, your average run-of-the-mill stab somebody for their pocket watch or a crime of passion and a jealous rage type of thing, right? These serial killers start to Eric Anthony in the box. Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. Howdy, howdy. Yeah, it seems like I don't know, like they start behaving differently, right? Like this guy was writing letters to try to incriminate others, and he was trying to blackmail them out of money. Others keep souvenirs from their killings, right? Body parts, or I don't know, ladies' undergarments, or something from the house that they commit these murders in, right? I don't know, a spoon collection. I don't know, whatever these knuckleheads and kooks and nutballs decide. And that's different than a crime of passion. Or again, somebody just jabbing somebody in a dark alley for their pocket watch so they can get a pint of the black stuff from their local pub back in the 1880s. You know what I'm saying? You know, when they start removing parts from their victims or start rooting around to gather personal belongings and take them from their victims, jewelry or wedding rings or what have you. Or when they start, dare I say, and I hate to get graphic, but it is Halloween after all, they slice into somebody and they start removing, I don't know, their kidneys, or I don't know, in the case of Jack the Ripper, he removed all kinds of stuff, And then they start developing their own sort of areas of expertise, again, for lack of a better term, right? They start using these methods of choice. So again, it's not like a common criminal who will use whatever weapons he can find, weapons of opportunity, a stick, a lead pipe, a slapjack, a knife, whatever he can get his hands on for that night to hold somebody up in an alley. In the case of Dr. Cream, he eventually fell to preferring strychnine pills as his MO. But others use whatever, right? Strangulation or whatever the case may be, and they repeat this pattern. So it's much deeper than a momentary crime of passion or a crime of opportunity because of poverty. There's something not quite right up in their their head bone, and something snapped. And we talk about this sort of cultural emotional damage, trauma, right? Emotional damage, right? Because of, sudden shifts in things, your environment, for example, with like resets and terrible disasters, and we wonder why all of these asylums popped up everywhere. And, people were getting put in the nut house left, right, and center for all kinds of trumped up reasons. Something happened almost on a realm-wide scale that made a lot of people's psyches just snap. They couldn't take it. And some of them would act a little bit wacky, and they could be, quote-unquote, reprogrammed after a time, and others just completely gone. Like they're a total write-off, right? Like our friend Dr. Neill Cream, where he just went off the deep end and was going to take as many people with him as he could. Just very, very strange stuff. So, one wonders, what terrible events in some of these past sort of resets, of in and around 1800. And I'm of the opinion that there were multiple resets, some more severe than others. Some caused purposely and some naturally occurring that were just, the opportunists, the powers that be seized upon. But yeah, there's something that happened. And, people, when people snapped and they were going to be kind of maybe not such great people to begin with, but after this traumatic event, now you start seeing things like, asylums and serial killers. And again, I'm sure there was, back in the 1200s or whatever, you had your village idiot, somebody that was just a stark raving loon that lived in your town. And every once in a while, people had to give him a couple of slaps and throw him in the stockade overnight to cool his engines or whatever, right? But it seems like right around 1800 and mid 1800s maybe and onward, it goes from these strange one-offs or, exceptions to the rule to now all of a sudden the exception becomes the rule. And you have these serial killers popping up, and they become famous, infamous. Because again, there was this strange fascination with the macabre back in the Victorian era. So speaking of macabre, I think this is a perfect time to segue into a sneak peek at your midweek. And again, as a reminder, normally your midweek vintage footage video goes up every Wednesday. But this coming week, it's going to go up a day early on Tuesday. So that will be October 31st as opposed to November 1st. That way you get a Halloween-themed midweek vintage footage video on Halloween. So, yeah. So I think a guy's going to do that. It's about four minutes-ish, give or take. Take a quick little break. Come back, we'll take a little bit more of a look into Dr. Cream. And then we're going to look at some very spooky-looking old-world asylums. I mean, they're designated asylums, so a guy's going to call them asylums. Some of the big ones, some of the old-world ones from up here in Canada there, eh, buddy? So let me just queue up your sneak peek and get that going, and then be back here in a second. I do this every time, don't I? Like, where is it? Where is the dang thing? It should be maybe here? No. Sorry about this, folks. I can't seem to find it. Is this it? Let me just double check real quick. Just double checking. Yes, that should be the right one. All right. So here's your sneak peek at your midweek for Tuesday, October 31st. Like I said, about 4 minutes, and I'll be right back. Nope. Wrong video. I'm sorry. Technical difficulties. This is the one I'm after. I'm sorry. All right, here we go. Psych. Gotcha.
Don't know how old I am. Found armor in my belly from the 16th century. Conquistador, I think. They don't know how old I am. They found armor in my belly. Passion out of machine revving tension. Lashing out at machine revving tension. Rushing by the machine, revving tension. Morning broke out the backside of a truck stop. The end of a line, a real rainbow like an Lux cup, where you could see I became chronologically fucked up. Put $10 in just to get the tank topped off. Then I found a place, it's dark and it's rotted. It's a cool, sweet kind of place where the coppers won't spot it. And I destroyed the map, I even thought I forgot it. However, every day I'm dumping the body. Better for us if you don't understand. Better for me if you don't understand. Yeah. And I found a place, it's dark and it's rotted. It's a cool, sweet kind of place where the coppers won't spot it. And I destroyed the map that I carefully dotted. However, every day I'm dumping the body. It'd be better for us if you don't understand. It'd be better for us if you don't understand. Better for me if you don't understand.
All right, all right. That's enough of that. That's enough of that nonsense. We're back. Hello, hello. Welcome back. I had to turn the light on over here a little bit there, eh? Because she's getting dark. Dark. You know, even with some dimmer lights on, yeah, wasn't cutting it. So yeah. Welcome back. What'd you think of that? Spooky. Ooh, spooky. Oh yeah, thanks, Bill. That's my favorite band to use around here on the channel. Tragically Hip, great band from Canada. They came out of the late 80s and they were a powerhouse through the 90s and the early 2000s. Actually, they were pretty much powerhouse right up until the end, when the lead singer passed away from brain cancer. Back in, when was that now? Geez, seems like yesterday, but it was quite a while ago now. I think 5 years ago-ish, 4 or 5 years ago. Anyway. Yeah, that wasn't easy to edit, by the way. That's like 30 seconds of film of a skull puppet that I found from National Film Board of Canada, something I can't even remember what it was, and then to try to clip that and try to sync it up as best I could with the vocals. Yeah, it wasn't easy. That was fun, but it took me a while. That's what the first one was. That was a mistake. That was kind of the first version, and it wasn't quite up to par. But anyway. So, yeah, welcome back, and thanks again. If you're just joining me, Frankie here, New West Reset. So thank you very much for shooting in and joining a guy here for another New West Reset Live. Episode 37 here tonight. It's the Halloween special, even though it's not Halloween for the 4 days. But anyway, tonight we're taking a look at the creepy Dr. Thomas Neill Cream, who was a Scottish-born Canadian Victorian Era serial killer. The Lambeth poisoner, loved poisoning ladies with strychnine. So real nice guy there. So yeah, spooky stuff. And also going to look at some old world mental asylums, I guess. You know, loony bins. But the old world style ones from across Canada here. Oh, thanks, Drew. Thank you. Yeah, it's I'm not a professional or anything. I'm more of a guy who has limited technical skills on the magic box here, this computer thing. So I do what I can. That probably could have taken somebody else like half an hour to do with some kind of software, but it took me about 3 hours. So yeah, it's fun anyways. Plus, I got a chance to listen to that song like 17 times in a row. So anyway, let's get back to this Thomas Neill real quick here. This Dr. Thomas Neill Cream. Just another quick article. By the way, links once again for all of this are in the description below. But we'll take another look at an article here, and then we'll get into some of these beautiful old world structures, Canadian asylums from across up here in Canada there, eh, buddy? Oh, speaking of Canadians, there's Freya. Hey, Freya. She says, hey, Frankie, been listening, but away from my phone. I love that you're covering some old world creepiness. Well, but I wonder if much of it's made up to the point of the old world as a hellhole. Well, but you raise some good points. And I do often wonder if the stories of living in squalor, in the 1800s, we hear stories of, New York and London. They're really big cities. London, most especially, for some reason, we always hear that it was just, the East London was just a cesspool and yada, yada, and then old New York, the 5 Points, right? Like the Gangs of New York Scorsese movie. And sometimes I wonder if it was exaggerated a little bit. But I really do believe that there was something going on in and around, between 1800 and 1850-ish that just caused some kind of cultural trauma that just a lot of people just snapped. We weren't really hearing much about what we today call serial killers up until, right around 1800s. Then they started becoming less and less of an oddity and a lot more frequent, and I don't know. I think there was some kind of event or series of events over a short time period that just a lot of people cracked. You know what I'm saying? So, Thank you very much. Headley Man BC. Yes. Yeah, consider giving a feller a thumbs up. Freya says, agreed about that, but maybe not some if the more recent, like Jack the Ripper and the earlier serial killers. Yeah, I think, well, they're constantly trying to, I know with when looking into this Canadian, Canada's Jack the Ripper, this Dr. Cream, that, of course, inevitably, when you're researching Dr. Cream and he's known as Canada's Jack the Ripper, articles on Jack the Ripper himself, East London's Jack the Ripper, keep coming up. And they keep trying to pin other murders on Jack the Ripper, right? And I think even the 5 that they say for sure that he did, I think there's some question, right? Things are kind of dodgy. The methods and motives are modus operandi, and the equipment used, I should say, not the motives, but appear to kind of differ slightly. And there could have been, since I know for sure there was sensationalism by the newspapers of the time. So but yeah, people starting to lose their shit after the last reset. Basically, yeah, exactly. Internet person. Hello, welcome. Internet person in the box. Good to see you. Yeah, I found that even in the 1960s too, right? Green River Killer was that 60s or 70s, but even in the 60s with the Zodiac, right? You watch these podcasts or these true crime channels on the YouTubes, and they're always trying to add more onto the quote unquote body count of some of these serial killers, right? So in the case of Jack the Ripper, I think they're trying to add extras onto him. Such and such person was killed within 10 blocks of one of the other victims, and they were slashed with a knife, so it must have been him. And they did the same with Zodiac. Again, I think Zodiac, what they say were all of his, perhaps were also not all of his. It's hard to say. Modern times, you've got, fingerprint, blood type, and DNA, databases that can be used by all branches of law enforcement all over the world. And they can tap into these resources. Back in the time of, Jack the Ripper, or in the case of tonight with Dr. Cream, a lot of times they would, wash the blood away from the crime scene before even investigating the crime scene. Because it was gross having all that blood, and people would be walking by in the street, and they didn't want to supposedly to rattle anybody's delicate sensibilities. Yeah. But I've seen a few comments from the fine folks in the box tonight that perhaps they were, former, orphan train kids or incubator babies, or, these orphans that we hear about that were running half feral all in the streets in London and New York and Chicago, and they were trained out to rural areas to work on farms and be adopted by families and whatnot. I mean, there was such displacement and so many crazy things going on in this time period that it's no wonder that some people just snapped. But then again, it didn't take much to get you sent to the mental hospital, to an asylum back in the Victorian era either, did it? We've all seen that list, and I have a copy of it tonight as a refresher too. You get a bad case of the hiccups and they'll throw you in the nut house. And it's the opposite today. Today, if somebody, some poor soul is suffering with some kind of debilitating mental condition, they just pump you full of pills and send you back out on the streets. So I don't know what was worse, sending you to fend for yourself, hopped up on all kinds of crazy pills, or keeping you locked up in an asylum and doing all kinds of terrible things to you, right? Who knows? Uh-oh, what's going on here with Phil? You broke down? Oh, Phil broke down. That is a bummer. Called 911, sending cop and tow truck. Oh, that is a drag. Sorry. Yeah, you be careful there now, Phil. Yeah, that's right. Stay safe. Pitch dark, 2-lane mountain highway. Yeah, you be careful, sir. Be careful now. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is basically it was doing these terrible experiments. Even in medical schools, like what were supposed legitimate medical schools, where one would train to become specifically, a surgeon. These galleries that they would have, they were called operating theaters. And they had like stadium style seating so that everybody 5 rows back could get a good view. I don't know. I mean, if you're going to become a legit medical doctor, I suppose I get it. But if you're somebody like this Dr. Thomas Neill Cream, who's obviously off his rocker, the cheese is slid off the guy's cracker for sure there, eh, bud? So, I don't know. No screening process back in the day. You were a stark raving lunatic and you wanted to become a doctor? Well, come on in. Yikes. Yikes is what I got to say. So I've got one more article here. It's from a website. Again, link in the description. But this is when Canada's Jack the Ripper serial killer struck in Ontario. There's another lovely picture of our buddy. Yikes. The Canadian doctor Thomas Neill Cream rivals the infamous Jack the Ripper as one of the deadly serial killers of the Victorian age. The McGill Medical School graduate murdered as many as 10 people in Canada, the United States, and Britain between 1877 and 1892. It's almost like they're proud and they're bragging about this clown for some reason. But anyway, in this excerpt from The Case of the Murderous Dr. Cream, The Hunt for a Victorian Era Serial Killer, published by HarperCollins Canada on June 1st, author Dean Job shows how Cream got away with murder in Ontario in 1879, launching his deadly rampage. The young girl approached the privy behind Bennett's fancy store, her family's business in London, Ontario. On a May morning in 1879, Jessie Bennett opened the door. A woman in her mid-20s was seated inside, motionless and slumped against the wall. Bennett fetched her brother, who assumed the woman must be asleep or drunk. Great. The children alerted a passing policeman. Constable William Ryder touched the woman. She was dead. This is Canada, by the way. Did you get consent to touch her before you touched her? Anyway, moving on. Bad joke, I know. On the seat beside the body was a small silk handkerchief and an upright, uncorked medicine bottle containing a colorless liquid. Ryder summoned a doctor, James Niven, who estimated she'd been dead since daybreak. He detected an odor familiar to any medical man: chloroform. The woman's nose and cheeks were blotched and raw, burned. Dr. Niven suspected from contact with the chemical. Before the body was removed for an autopsy, another doctor showed up. His office was on the upper floor at 204 Dundas Street, above Hiscock's livery stable and next door to Bennett's store. A lane and an outdoor stairway connected his building to the privy in the backyard. He identified the woman as a maid at the nearby Tecumseh House Hotel. He knew her name too, Catherine Gardner. She had consulted him several times. A reporter at the scene jotted down the name of the helpful bystander, Dr. Cream. Yes, isn't that the other thing too that they say with serial killers that differs them from other murderers? Is that often they like to try to help or make it seem like they're helping. Thomas Neill Cream had established a practice in the city in the fall of 1878. After earning his licenses in medicine and surgery in Edinburgh, he had returned to America in search of a city in need of a doctor. But 6 months after his arrival in London, his professional reputation came under fire. He was hauled before a police magistrate, Lawrence Lawson? Really, a lawman named Lawrence Lawson. Get the hell out of here. Anyway, moving on. In February 1879, and charged under Ontario's Medical Act with practicing without a license. In court, Cream claimed it was all a misunderstanding. He had submitted the required fee, but the Ontario Medical Council had failed to issue a license. The allegation of illegal practice was still before the courts when Catherine Gardner was found dead in the privy just steps from his office. The general opinion is that it is a case of suicide, readers were told when the London Free Press broke the news on May 3rd. It was believed the woman had been pregnant, and to hide her shame, it is conjectured she took poison. Dr. John R. Flock, the City of London's coroner, this is London, Ontario, by the way, quickly ordered an inquest into Gardner's death. But a crucial mistake had already been made. Her body had been removed from the outhouse before it could be viewed by a coroner's jury. Murderers, a manual issued to Ontario coroners warned, have been known to purposely place their victims in positions calculated to indicate accidental or suicide death. So see here, they removed it from the outhouse before it could be viewed by the coroner's jury. So see, they were always they didn't know to preserve crime scenes back then, or so we're told anyway. At the inquest, friends and co-workers at the Tecumseh House Hotel were sworn in and described the woman they knew as Kitty, Catherine Hutchinson Gardner, had grown up on a farm near Kincardine, about 100 miles north of London. She'd been feeling ill and left the hotel a week earlier. No one thought she was suicidal. Dr. James Niven had completed the autopsy and revealed why Gardner had felt unwell. She had been 2 months pregnant. He did not, however, suspect suicide. The burns to her face showed the chloroform had been held tightly against the skin using a handkerchief that had been forcibly applied by some other person standing in front of the deceased. Gardner, in his opinion, had been murdered. London was rife with rumors about who might be responsible. One name kept popping up at the inquest. Gardner was last seen alive on the Friday evening before her death, walking alongside Dundas Street towards Cream's office. Sarah Long, a Tecumseh House hotel maid who had roomed with Gardner, identified the baby's father as a man named Johnson, who lived in another town. Then she shocked onlookers with a sinister tale of deceit and attempted blackmail. Gardner had gone to Cream for an abortion, but he had refused to provide drugs or perform the operation. Instead, Long claimed, Cream had urged Gardner to seduce one of the Tecumseh's residents, a wealthy businessman named William H. Burrell. She could then accuse Burrell of being the father, and Cream, as her doctor, had promised to back her paternity claim. Jesus, scandalous. See this big, complicated, convoluted, jackassy scheme that he's trying to pull here? This isn't just, some crime of passion, right? Something's wrong with this guy in the head. Emotional damage, you know what I'm saying? Like some kind of cultural, I don't know. I keep using the same catchphrase, some kind of cultural trauma, but it's basically what it is. I'm not dismissing his actions by saying, he couldn't help it or whatever. I don't know. I wasn't there. None of us were there. This could all be embellished. This could all be made up. I don't know. It's just a fascinating case because it's an early case of, what we now call serial killers. And this guy was just, I don't know. They're thought of as being highly intelligent, but this guy was as dumb as a stump. This guy was as dumb as a sack full of doorknobs. Anyways, moving along here, the next witness was Burrell, who assured Flock he had never met or spoken to Gardner. Then it was Cream's turn. He had met Gardner soon after his arrival into the city. She was Presbyterian, and they may have known each other through the church. He had treated her for minor ailments. An examination on April 5th confirmed she was pregnant. She offered me $100 to make her right. I said I would not touch her for 1,000. He said, she cried in my office. She said she would poison herself. I said I could do nothing for her. 3 days later, he continued, a letter was slipped under his office door. Gardner's name was at the bottom, and Cream said he recognized her handwriting. How is this doctor going to recognize the handwriting of some random woman who came in to get an abortion? He's a handwriting expert now? Anyway. Handwriting is always dodgy at the best times anyhow. But anyway. He had handed it over to the coroner earlier in the day. I'm getting worse, and I'm getting stouter every day, it said. As I told you before, Mr. W.H. Burrell is the cause of my troubles. He says he will pay you well if you make this all right. Cream insisted he had seen Gardner for the last time on April 20th and claimed there was no chloroform in his office. Surprisingly, he was not questioned about the alleged blackmail plot. The letter did not appear to be genuine. Robert Gardner, her brother, later testified he would recognize her handwriting anywhere, and it had been written by someone else. The jurors deliberated for more than 90 minutes before announcing a verdict. Catherine Gardner had been murdered, poisoned with chloroform, administered to her by some person or persons to us unknown. They also identified Johnson as the father of Gardner's unborn child, clearing Burrell of all blame whatsoever. There was no exoneration for Cream, who remained the prime suspect. The Free Press urged its readers to keep an open mind, while the doctor appeared to be cognizant of some details of the transaction. Our editorial cautioned 2 days after the verdict. The evidence does not connect him with it in any improper way. What the hell does that mean? Using double negatives and stuff. The evidence implicated Cream was circumstantial but damning. He was her doctor. She had begged him to make her right, and, by his own admission, had offered him a hefty fee if he provided drugs or performed an abortion. Her body was found only steps from his building. There were whispers he administered the chloroform as an anesthetic so he could perform an abortion, but the chemical had killed her. Cream had then planted her body in the outhouse, staged to look like she had committed suicide. Dr. Flock made no effort to challenge Cream's self-serving claims. Fulfilling his final duty as coroner, he submitted the verdict and a transcript of the testimony to the local prosecuting attorney. The authorities, however, took no further action. Gardner's murder was never solved. Great. Took no further action. Way to go. This is a long article. TLDR, man. It's a long article. The link's in the description. I've forgotten that article was that long. There's still like 4 paragraphs in the darn thing. It's crazy. But yeah, this guy's jumping through all kinds of crazy hoops. You know what I'm saying? Just to, it's just, what's going on here? Terry's saying now, wait just a dang minute. Did the band name themselves after this creep? I mean, knowing what we know now. Shudder. Yeah, there is a band. Because if you type in Dr. Cream in the YouTube search window, you get, little videos and little documentaries about, the fella we're talking about right now. But you also get videos from a band named Dr. Cream and the something or others. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, you know what? Unless you fall off the scaffolding or out of a tree and you break your dang leg and the bone's sticking out and you got to get it reset and a cast put on, you pretty much, I mean, if it's something serious, but I mean, everybody's just been trained to every little sniffle and hangnail and every little lump and bump. They go to the doctor. More often than not, they go to the emergency room, and it's like, geez. When I was a kid, my dad used to just walk it off, or just rub some dirt on it. You'll be fine. So let's have a look at some photographs that I found on the interwebs of some of these institutions, these old school asylums. A lot of these are in Ontario for some reason. I mean, Ontario is the most heavily populated area of Canada, but yeah, most of these are in Ontario. So let's start it off with the Kingston Asylum in Kingston, Ontario. Not gonna let too much out of the bag about Kingston, because got a live stream coming up with Old World Exploration, our monthly show, the Knucklehead Show, and episode 7 coming up is going to be about Kingston, Ontario. So I don't want to give too much away on this, but I mean, look at this behemoth. It's not just a building. I mean, it's a whole series. It's a whole complex, a whole series of buildings. And, you've got your cupola with your dome here and these sort of spire-like towers, and then more cupolas all along here. But not only that, you have this big sort of entranceway here. Got some kind of big stack or tower of some kind here. It just is a whole complex. Plus, they got their own marina, and I mean, come on, man. I mean, these guys aren't messing around. I think this is right on Lake Ontario. But man, oh man. This is just one of the buildings at Kingston. But you can see, again, just those massive structures, that bat wing sort of design. But, pretty fancy, to put a bunch of poor, unfortunate mental patients. I mean, are they going to appreciate this coining and these arched windows with these keystones and, all of this architectural detail with the pediment and this sawtooth design under here and all that? Probably not. This is Woodlands Institution, which I believe is also Ontario. Again, you see that it sort of repeats that sort of bat wing design. If it looks like an asylum, we better designate it as an asylum after we dig it out and fix her up. But this one I'm noticing is not only is the building obviously have a lot of the hallmarks of old world structures. Look at the grounds here, like the front yard, the grounds themselves. I think it just boom falls away, boom falls away here. Back here too, boom falls away. And what the hell's going on with all this crap? It's like all this stuff just flowed in and flowed down, and they kind of cleaned up this as much as they could. And all right, what does this look like to you? An asylum. All right, let's call it that. And let's put all people that disagree with the new narrative and lock them up in there. This is the Halifax Asylum. Not just a mental institution, but also a poor asylum. So if you were just down on your luck and didn't have a lot of coins to rub together, you could get put in an asylum. Again, you get these towers. This looks kind of funny. Almost looks like it's been manipulated, at least to me. See this here? I'm just noticing this right now. This has been manipulated. It's been trimmed and cut, probably to fit on a postcard or something, maybe. Although I don't know why, because these are concrete sewer blocks made at the Halifax Asylum. So apparently they're making these blocks inside here. So they got the people being held in the asylum, They're putting them to work making these blocks. Okay. But yeah, this has definitely been monkeyed around with. Hey there, old friend. Isabella Live 2.0 Halifax. There's not that many people there. And there would have to have been 1920, 1890. Yeah. Yeah, it's the population didn't change much from 1890s to, early 1920s. I mean, Halifax is a decent-sized city. But, I mean, this is just a huge building for, a smaller city like Halifax back then. This is the Queen Street Asylum in Toronto. So, again, you got to have pediments and domes with a cupola on top. And, you know how we like to do her up here in Canada there, eh, buddy? It's cropped here, but it probably has another dome on top, eh? Because we like to put domes on top of domes. But, you got these columns here and, again, the pediments. And this is, one huge building, or one huge series of attached buildings or something. I mean, this isn't just... this isn't like City Hall and these are a couple of apartment buildings and office, but no, this is all one asylum. Just like down in the States, and we've seen, these massive buildings. Can't remember where this one is. Unfortunately, I can't read that. It's very picoulated. But you can see here, these pillars here, the columns, and a big, huge, fancy place. Again, my apologies. I can't remember which one this is. This might be Winnipeg. A lot of the same features, the coining here and detail above the arches and the pediments with all of this sawtooth or dogtooth. But these suspiciously low windows down here, though, for some reason. I mean, they'll tell us these are basement windows. Okay, so why are these ones all blocked up then? If you purposely designed your building to have a basement and windows to let in the light, then why build your structure and then block them in? Looks like it perhaps is a mud flutter. This is the London, Ontario Asylum. Look at the size of this place. And now, you need all of this for a mental institution. I mean, it's not like families are coming here to the front lawn and picnicking and sitting and looking at the marvelous glory of the architecture on this place. This is a mental institution. It's another lunatic asylum. I think this is... I'm sorry. It's just labeled lunatic asylum. I forgot to relabel some of these, but for sure it's somewhere in Canada. This one I want to say is also in Ontario. Most of these are. A couple from Halifax. Here's the Aurelia Asylum in Ontario. Again, look at this, man. I mean, really? Looking like something out of the Ottoman Empire or something. And it's in Ontario, Canada. To house the mentally haunted. Mentally disturbed people. Need something that fancy, I guess. This is the Parkland Asylum. This is also in Ontario, I believe. It's either Ontario or Manitoba. But anyway. Some domes and cupolas. And I mean, come on, man. Pediments. Were there that many mentally unstable people in Canada? Canada still only has like 40 million people in the whole bloody country. back in the Victorian era, like maybe what, I don't know, 10 million people? Look at this place. Again, that's photos from the 60s, but again, you know, like what we see in a lot of the asylums in the US, where the population is 10 times what it is in Canada, and pretty much has always been at least 10 times our population. So you're used to seeing something like this if it was in, I don't know, Missouri, or you know what I'm saying, or like, I don't know, Illinois or Pennsylvania, New York, maybe even out in LA or in Texas. But in Canada, massive complex. And, you know, they've brutalized some of these and they've mixed, you know, new buildings with old buildings. But, you know, these have their own entire infrastructure. You know, it's got its own water tower here, probably has its own power and it's off the grid, separate power system and plumbing system and all that jazz. So what's really going on? Why do you need big buildings and grouping massive buildings all together in these huge complexes? There's that many crazy people. There's that many. This is the Selkirk Mental Hospital, Selkirk Asylum. You want to have these fancy Turkish looking things on your, I don't know, turrets, or sort of like half turret. I don't even know how to describe that. I guess it's like a, not quite like a steeple. It's not really a dome. I don't know. What would you call that? It's kind of like a severed conical dome with a cupola on top. I've never seen anything like that with all this little, I don't know if these are dormers, windows in them maybe. I have no idea. This is just at the back end of the Whitby Psychiatric Hospital. It's Canadian as well, but noting the ground level here, and it just kind of shoots right down over here and is much lower here than here. But I mean, you know, what's this thing? They'll say it's like a smokestack for, I don't know, their crematorium or garbage disposal or whatever, but it's definitely made of brick. What the heck's that doing at a mental asylum? You know what I mean? So there you go. This is that list that we're all familiar with. We've all seen this, I'm sure. Reasons for admission into lunatic asylum. You were kicked in the head by a horse, in you go. You're bothered by the marriage of your son, you're gone. Lock you up. Reading too many novels, in you go, bookworm. I mean, some things like you got an opium habit, okay, that I understand. That I totally understand. But if you're enthusiastic about your religion, in you go, kook, you're bad company. Now, who determines what makes you bad company? Makes me think of that band, Bad Company. Those poor buggers, if they'd been around in the 1860s, they could have gotten locked up based on their name alone. You have bad habits and political excitement, in you go. Jeez. Your son's died in the war? Well, we better put you in the nut house. I don't even know what dropsy means. You faint a lot? I don't even know. But if you're dropsy, you're getting locked up. You know. If you fight fires. Wait a second. Are you telling me that if you are a member of your town or city's volunteer fire brigade or organized fire department, you could be institutionalized in a mental asylum? Okay. Women troubles. Man, they would lock me up in a second then in this place. I'd already be in there. Throw away the key. You got smallpox? We won't take you to the hospital if you have smallpox. We'll lock you in the nut house instead, and then we'll let it spread through all the other patients. That's a great idea. You greedy? Well, greedy's not the best of characteristics, but I don't think you're necessarily crazy if you're greedy. This one I don't understand. Salvation Army. Does that mean if you're a member of the Salvation Army? Or you study too hard? Or you get shot? God forbid you get shot or have smallpox. Seduction and disappointment. What does that even mean? You ask a woman out on a date and she says, no. So now you're feeling butthurt. So you got to go into the nut house, do you? I don't get it. You fell from a horse in war. So you get shot in war. You lose a son in war. Just the war in general. In you go. In you go. Female disease. So whether the male catches one or the female has one or the female's caught one from the male. So it's really just what they mean is VD, right? Sorry, STDs? I can't keep up with the acronyms of what they call that stuff today. You know, the owies when you pee-pee. I mean, some of these things are ridiculous. I mean, deranged masturbation, okay. But you're deserted by your husband? In you go, lady. You know. Tobacco, like some of them are just senseless. Tobacco and masturbation. I'm not even going to ask. I think that's enough of that. Because I don't know what that means. Oh, I have a couple more. Sorry. couple more institutions to check out. But that list is wacky, man. Yeah, you got menopause, hot flashes. You're out of here. You're gone. Oh, that could be. Because greedy is a very broad term, right? So yeah, maybe if you're obese or, sloth-like, right? One of the 7 deadly sins, sloth. Then maybe. Yeah, that's right, internet person. If you keep fighting those fires we keep setting, we're going to throw your ass in jail, basically. Oh, yeah, well, if the queen didn't like you, yeah, I mean, she takes one look at you and we are not amused. Then in you go. In you go. That includes us Canadians, too, eh? Because the queen over there was our queen, too, there, eh? This is the Toronto Mental Asylum, right? It's no longer in operation, but what once was right downtown in the T-Dot. In Toronto. Is that the last one? Really? I went through all that rigmarole for one more? Okay. There it is. Guess we can't let that last one miss the boat. So yeah, pretty crazy stuff. Yeah, Freya says it's always arbitrary and subjective parameters. Gives them a lot of wiggle room. Absolutely. Yeah, they purposely gloss over everything with vague language, right? So you get diluted. Your brain gets diluted. The terminology. I mean, even amongst the other, quote unquote, doctors that work in the asylum, it's up to their interpretation. They look on the list and they go, oh, this person has got religious fervor. I mean, to them, that could just mean when you greet somebody, they say, I don't know, something like, God be with you or something. Oh, no, in the nut house you go. Yeah, I think so, right? I think you have a good point there, internet person. They're basically trying to mold people into sort of predetermined personality types. We hear that today. You're type A, you're type this, you're a driver, you're amiable, you're this, that, and the other type of personality. I can remember way back when I was a younger fella and worked retail sales, but I worked in high-end menswear, like $1,500 Armani suits type stuff. And, they always send us on all these salesman seminars and classes and stuff like that. They were always, inevitably, they would always talk about the different kinds of customers. And it was always broken down into 4. It was always 4. It was never 3 or 5, always 4. Always. I'm like, really? There's only 4 kinds of people in the world, eh? Okay. Whatever you say. But with these really vague terms, with all that wiggle room, makes it, yes, very, very subjective. Very subjective indeed. Yeah, definitely. It's Edward Bernays type stuff. Social engineering, So let's see what else I got. I think that wraps it up for everything for Dr. Thomas. I don't even feel right referring to him as a doctor. Apparently, at one time he did it. He was a doctor. But I think that's all I have on Thomas Neill Cream. So links for the Wikipedia and that article, if you want to finish the rest of reading that article, again, they'll be in the link. The links will be in the description below. So where are we at here? We're coming up on 9 p.m. local time, mountain time here in Calgary, Alberta. Purdy, Alberta. So creeping up on 2 hours. I think I'm getting ready to wind it down here for the night. If any of you in the box have any questions for me, please do not hesitate before I skedaddle on out of here for the night. You know what? I even had some spooky background music to play while I was doing this whole thing. And I'm not going to lie. I dropped the ball. I just forgot. That's it. I just totally, it was in my noggin, and it rolled out of one of my sockets like one of these eyeballs, and I lost it under the bed. Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, right? Like it's the trifecta, right? It's your mind, body, and your spirit, right? Not your Holy Spirit, but your spirit, your fire in your belly, right? So if one goes, the other 2 fall like dominoes. So if you lose your marbles upstairs a little bit, yeah, you're physically affected, and then it just kills your drive. It kills your spirit. It kills your motivations to get help, to change directions in your life's path, whatever the case may be. Same as if your physical health goes, right? Then your spirit starts to crash, and then you lose your marbles. So, yeah, and I think that a lot of what's been put into our, systems, just whether it's culturally or our infrastructure or, the religious institutions, the medical industry, the big pharma, everything. They're meant to chip away and deteriorate at least one out of those 3 in the trifecta. If they can get 2 or even all 3 out of the 3, even better for them. But if they can just get at 1, they know eventually the other 2 will come tumbling down as well, right? Like the walls of Jericho. Oh, there he is. Vincent says, hey, I'm back. Computer got tired. That'll happen. Look how tired my little pocket computer got when we were at Heritage Park. Of course, by pocket computer, I just mean this thing, But it's going to happen. Especially with a guy like me tends to prattle on and, get verbal diarrhea. I can't help it. You're such a great bunch there in the box that I just like hanging out with you. Oh, how appropriate. Internet person says perfect moon tonight. There you go. Is it spooky? Is it a spooky moon? Ooh. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. You're Drew's in Washington State. Yeah, you're like your neighbor, basically. You're right close to a fella. I mean, technically, Alberta is above Montana, but I mean, you just kind of go a little west and then down, just down a little bit past Idaho there, and boom, there you go. What's it now? Yeah, it's minus 10 Celsius here now. So that's 20-ish Fahrenheit, 25-ish Fahrenheit, something like that. Well, Halloween moon tonight, is it? Oh, okay. I haven't even looked out my window. Not since I started streaming, anyway. It's just getting dark early now, though. You know, then they're going to kick in with the whole daylight savings thing, that whole farce. All it does is script sleep pattern. You know, only these knuckleheads that are always trying to call the shots on us all the time, only they can come up with an idea that, you know, you cut a foot off the bottom of your blanket and sew it to the top of your blanket, and now your blanket somehow is magically a foot longer than it was. Nope, same thing. Same length. Dummies. Yeah. See, there is a lot of new age hoo-hoo stuff that's pure baloney and complete asinine garbage. But they lump in the good stuff with that garbage, and they call it new age hoo-hoo, wacky, whacked out hippie stuff or whatever. And just like anything else, just like when you talk about the shape of the earth or whether we went to the moon or not or whatever, then automatically you're a conspiracy theorist, right? And guess what? The Big Bang theory is also it's also a theory. Darwin's writings on evolution, that's also a theory. So, don't throw that in our faces. Yeah, if you talk about, mud flood or resets or, the past being altered, things being changed, things being purposely withheld from us, then we're wearing a tinfoil hat like Joaquin Phoenix in that M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong movie. You know the one I'm talking about, with Mel Gibson, where they think there's aliens in their backyard or whatever on that farm. It's a good movie. Well, and that's just the thing, isn't it, Mega? Big Bang isn't even a theory anymore. It didn't happen. Yeah. But that's the thing, is they always refer to it as, technically it was, the proper name is the Big Bang Theory, right? But they kind of dropped the theory in the name after a while, and they just started saying, well, when the Big Bang occurred, whoa. You're hypothesizing that when the Big Bang theoretically could have occurred, But what are you going to do? It's that playing with the language, right? I like to play with the language all the time. Yeah, you know what? I kind of don't mind being lumped in. Because I know, hey, if you're going to lump me in with tinfoil hat wearing people, then I'm probably going to be lumped in with the rest of you. And hey, that's fine by me. It's good company. So where are we at here? Just past 2 hours. Just crept past 9 p.m. here local time. So I think that's it. I'm ready to throw in the towel for tonight. Guy's going to have himself a late night snack, wind down a bit with some Edgar Allan Poe, induce some nightmares or night terrors, and then get up and go to work tomorrow morning. So, yeah, there you go. So I think that is going to seal the deal here for tonight. Frankie at New West Reset and New West Reset Live, episode number 37, your Halloween special. So once again, thank you very much, everybody, for shooting in and joining a fella here for this one. Appreciate it as always. If you're tuning in after the fact, let me know what you think down in the comments below there. You could just kind of tippity-tappy it on the old keyboard. You know, just like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Beep, boop, bop, boop, babe. You know. Don't forget to give a guy one of these. And as mentioned earlier, links in the description below for BitChute and Rumble, MeWe, my email. If you got any ideas or anything you want me to have a look at, photographs, interesting articles, topics of discussion, send me a line. And we shall see you next Friday for New West Reset Live episode 38. Give you a sneak peek at your midweek. Once again, as a reminder, that will be Tuesday, Halloween, as opposed to normally your Wednesday for your vintage footage. And then Sunday, coming up here, Sunday the 29th. Got some boots on the ground for you. So once again, thank you very much. Appreciate it, as always. Till the next one, take care out there and have yourselves a good one. All right? Thanks a lot, everyone. Good night. Cheers.